All right, this is an American tradition as far back as I can remember. It's the lighting of the tree in Rockefeller Center in the middle of New York. There's always been a big party around this, but it looks like tonight we're going to have some party crashers. We've got pro-Palestinian protesters, say that 3 times fast in a row, that are planning to come and just throw a big wrench in the festivities. This is a very special Christmas tradition that we've enjoyed in America. It's like nothing is sacred anymore. They just crash everything. And I think a lot of us Christians were just really getting tired of it. How tired of it are we, though? I got to tell you, because we don't seem to be tired enough. They have no problem out there marching and making their voices heard while we just kind of sit back and let them. You know, in America, we have just as much right to celebrate the things that are near and dear to us, to speak up, to speak truth, to take a stand. We have just as much right as anyone else does to do that. And yet we're shrinking back. We're talking about how frustrated we are with it in our homes and among our friend groups, but we're really not doing that much. And I think a lot of us don't know what to do, right? And that's what this podcast is all about. It's trying to give us the how. Because, you know, most of us don't want to go out in the street and conduct a protest. I don't. It's cold. You know, we don't want to go out there and march around with signs. And I mean, I don't think that's the way. Women in particular have so much influence. Like my Nana used to say, you know, the man is the head of the household, but the woman turns his neck, right? We have so much influence in our households, in our communities. Women really do rule the world in a lot of ways when it comes to our ability to influence. It's a gift that God gave us, that emotional intelligence that we have. So what I have found is that when we learn how to influence from a genuine place and from a place of strength, from a place of clarity, then we can be so much more effective than anything we could do out on the streets. Culture always precedes politics. And what we've got to focus on right now, yes, we need to be showing up for the next election. And yes, we're going to be very active in 2024, trying to get people to the polls and all of that. But really, the next election is not what's going to solve this. What we've got to do is we've got to change the culture. And the way I always kind of work backward. Like, what do we ultimately want? We ultimately want our country restored, right? So we need to put great people in office. But I always work backward from there. And it comes all the way down to our kitchen table. Like, what are we saying and doing in our own friend groups? Are we shrinking back, or are we stepping up and making statements? And a lot of us are not even doing that as women, because we are just programmed for consensus and community. We women, we love to congregate. We love to be a part of something. We don't want to be ostracized from the group. And so a lot of us will just choose to not say anything rather than risk being ostracized. So these are the things that I started really discovering when God really called me into this work, and I've been really trying to kind of crack the code on what's it going to take to win our culture back. So women are key. We have the highest levels of emotional intelligence. We have tremendous ability to influence. It can be used for good or bad, right? So when we're using it for good, and we're in our Bibles and we're coming from a place of genuine influence, then we have the power to turn our culture back to God, so that then He can heal our land. And then you'll start seeing that show up in the political realm, on these city streets, all of that. But right now, you know, we're seeing a little bit of a turn of the tide. I think, again, a lot of us are tired of it. A lot of us are starting to get a little moral courage and stepping up and saying, no, this is not okay anymore. We are starting to see that. I think when you start to get a little angry, that helps. But it's got to be a righteous anger, and we've got to know where to channel it. We've got to know how to channel it properly, so that we actually influence and we don't repel people with our anger or with our frustration.